Judy, you're in? Kathy, you're all set? Kathy, you're all set? All right, I'm in. Okay. Good afternoon. Thank you all for coming. Our first item is the moment of silence and Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge of Allegiance will be done by Junior ROTC. Thank you. Please stand.
Ready? Face. Present. On.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Order. On. Ready? Face. Forward. March.
Please be seated. Thank you. All right, first item is staff recognitions. Mrs. Aries, looks like we have a full house today.
We do have a full house today. Good evening, President Pingarelli, members of the board, Dr. Stifler. I know I say this every time that we have a wonderful recognition for you this evening, but tonight I really, really mean it. We do have a wonderful group of students here with us this evening and some staff certainly very deserving of recognition. I'd like to draw your attention to two documents you hopefully received as you walked in for those in the audience and to our governing board members. It's a full list that doesn't even begin to do justice to how incredible the CTE career and technical education programs are in the Peoria Unified School District. We are a leader not only across the state but across the nation for what we do with career and technical education, and we all certainly can be so proud in that. So we're here tonight to recognize some of those fine young students as well as our teachers. We were so pleased to have our JROTC students featured this evening, so thank you very much to Perfect, right on cue, right? Thank you very much to our students for being here with us tonight and for presenting the colors. It's always an honor to have you here with us, and you can certainly be seated, but let's give them a big round of applause. And we have some of their outstanding leaders here with us, I think, seated right behind me this evening. Lieutenant Colonel Roel Zamora from Cactus High School, Chief Master Sergeant Jay Nelson, also from Cactus High School, Lieutenant Colonel Doug Ottinger from Peoria High School, and Senior Master Sergeant Jeffrey Hicks from Peoria High School. I know a couple of them had some other commitments, but gentlemen, thank you so much for being here this evening. If we can give them a round of applause. And in particular, I'll mention you do have that special program that highlights all the wonderful work of our JROTC students. So we know you do so much, and we're always pleased when we get to see you out and about in the community representing us in your schools so well. So a big congratulations to you. Well, we are also going to recognize a couple of other students that have achieved greatness at the national level on behalf of the district and on behalf of their schools. And we're so excited to have Trevor Garner here with us. And I'm going to tell you just a little bit about Trevor, but I'm going to ask him to stand as I share a little bit more so you know who I'm speaking about He is a senior at Centennial High School. He earned first place, securing the championship in coding and programming at the FBLA National Leadership Conference this summer. Not only that, but Trevor also served on the Zero Robotics team, which, if you can recall, earned first place in an international competition this past spring. So we should give Trevor certainly a huge round of applause. And you can sit down, Trevor. We're going to bring you back up here in just a little bit. But I want to also recognize principal from Centennial High School, Mrs. Chris Lopez-Lira, who's here with us this evening. So I'm sure very proud. And I think, Trevor, you may have some family here with you this evening to stand for recognition. We appreciate so much all the support family members give to our students. So thank you for being here. Well, more than 12,000 high school students competed in 150 events at the conference that was held at the Anaheim Convention Center. And so we're certainly very proud of Trevor and all the other students that went on to nationals to compete this summer. Trevor's advisor is Diana Denton, the software development teacher at Centennial. So we want to thank her, and we want to thank so many of the other CTE teachers and advisors and career center specialists and other families that give of their time and effort and energy to support our students. I know I saw a couple of other teachers from our CTE program here this evening, Mr. Jim Kaltenbach, Mr. Mike Woodard. I apologize if there's others I'd missed, but gentlemen, thank you so much for all that you do for our CTE programs as well. And I also want to recognize another student that we have with us this evening, national qualifier from the Agri-Science Fair, Cameron, I hope I'm pronouncing your name appropriately, Halvillan. So thank you so much for being here from Peoria High School. So a remarkable achievement. And of course, all of our CTE programs are led by Dr. Patty Beltram, who just does an incredible job, as I said, recognized across the state and nation, and you keep it all going. So thank you so much for all that you do, Dr. Beltram. And I mentioned briefly those that help to advise, and we have a wonderful CTE Advisory Committee that works tirelessly. And I'd like for us to just take a quick moment. I'd like to extend our gratitude to Carrie Kane, who has joined us this evening. He's from American Express, and Mr. Kane is extremely supportive of our CTE programs, also very supportive of the Met Professional Academy, serving as an advisor, a mentor. He's been an event judge, helped in just a number of ways, always happy to do anything that he can to support our programs in the Peoria Unified School District, most importantly as a parent, which is worth noting as well. So a big thank you to you, Mr. Kane, for all you do. And I know all these students making us so proud, couldn't be done without the work of their teachers. We're so proud to have such exceptional programs in our district. I'm going to invite Trevor up here so that you all have an opportunity to meet him and maybe offer some congratulatory remarks on behalf of the board. So I turn over Trevor to you.
Thank you very much. I'll start with Mrs. Connect.
I just offer my congratulations, Trevor. Thank you so much for the hard work you put into all that you do and for making us all look so good, and our CTE programs look so good. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mrs. Monica Sejar Martinez.
Thank you as well for making us look so good. Great teamwork. I'm assuming that when you think about the program, what stands out about a mentor or a teacher that helped you get to where you're at today?
Definitely my teacher, Mrs. Denton, who's here today, has helped a lot. Always there. If any questions, if I have, every time I have something pop up, she's always there to quickly respond. And it seems like I'm a priority to her. So, I mean, it's always nice to have that.
That's awesome. Thank you, and thank you so much.
Mrs. Doan.
Well, I want to say congratulations, and I'm curious, so is this your hobby as well as your work?
Yes, in my free time I do like to explore the computer realm, but in school definitely there's many opportunities that I do have presented through clubs and other organizations, and so I just try to take advantage of them, and for the most part, it turns out well for me, so.
Yes, I think it's very good when your interests meet with a career. That's
Definitely.
very good. Congratulations. Thank you.
Mr. Sandoval.
Yeah, I'll mirror certainly all the comments. Trevor, congratulations. Principal Lopez-Lira, Miss Denton, again, your leadership and the relationship that you spoke of, that you have with Mrs. Denton and I'm certain others on the campus is critical, certainly, to your success and your own ambition and drive and perseverance. So, like Ms. Sayah stated, I mean, while we are very much forward-thinking as a district, individuals like yourself and all of our students are certainly, representative of, what we strive for as a district, making sure that you're successful, confident, and adaptable. So thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, I also wanted to say congratulations. I guess, what year are you? A senior, was it? Or
Yes, I'm a senior right now.
are you going on to coding, or are you,
Yes, every major so far I'm applying to is a computer science major, so
okay.
plan on doing that in college.
Well, congratulations. Thank you very much for coming tonight, and thank you for your parents.
Thank you.
Well, one more round of applause for Trevor. And I'll have to apologize, 2 additional students that I failed to mention earlier that are here with us representing FBLA. So if you could stand so we could give you a big round of applause. Future business leaders of America. And representing very well at the national level. So congratulations, gentlemen, on a tremendous effort. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you. And I also wanted to mention, I wanted to put a plug in, there is a Career Exploration Day going to be at Centennial High School on October 28th between 9 and 12. So for anybody that's interested in learning about CTE and being a part of this, this great group, show up on October 28th between 9 and 12 at Centennial. Thank you.
Mrs. Pingarelli, may I make a couple of general comments?
Sure.
I just wanted to thank Dr. Beltram for all she does as the director of CTE for our school district. It's an amazing amount of coordination that you do, and we know that you're on the cutting edge all the time. Certainly, our CTE programs in Arizona are recognized across the country as exceptional and as a model for other school districts and other states, so I appreciate that. And I just wanted to point out, we talk about, sometimes choice is put over here and school districts are talked about over here, when in fact there is so much choice within our school districts. And in fact, our career and technical education programs are just one of the many areas that students who have a particular interest or a particular skill in an area have a multitude of choices in which to explore and succeed. And so congratulations to everyone in administration and the teachers and the students for making the most out of this tremendous opportunity.
Thank you. I work with Dr. Beltram, so I'm sorry I failed to mention you tonight, so thank you very much. All right.
Mrs. Pingarelli?
Yes.
May I sneak in a couple more recognitions?
Sure, you can.
On Monday, maybe you know, maybe you heard, there was an eclipse. Across our school district, took advantage of that in all the most appropriate ways. Our students experienced that rare science opportunity. We had a number of schools participate in a variety of ways, including using special glasses approved by NASA, making pinhole cameras, or watching the NASA live stream. Grand Canyon University had actually their science team over here. They were at Ironwood High School. They were out there with the kids, very appropriately viewing the eclipse. That all went down on Monday. Congratulations to Sunrise Mountain High School baseball players Andy Moreno and Dawson Herrera. They both won gold medals at the USA Baseball National Team Series in Cary, North Carolina last weekend. And many of our students, including our youth council liaisons, participated in the Youth Advisory Board yesterday, and we're excited at how engaged they are with the issues involving their schools, fellow teens, and community. And we'll bring back more official introductions with those students who serve on the Youth Council liaisons in October. And finally, Ironwood High School's very talented Excelsius Choir won a contest through Cool FM, and tonight, before the Foreigner concert, they're on stage to sing at the Auction Pavilion. So that's why they're not here tonight.
Cool.
Thank you.
All right. Next item is board recognitions. Mr. Sandoval, do you have any this evening?
I do. So earlier this week, I had the opportunity to visit Heritage Elementary, which is one of our elementary schools that are very advanced and deep in the personalized learning, certainly process. A couple of things that I was impressed by, was certainly their passion stemming from the leadership of, Principal Brody there, Lynn, and certainly how they've integrated the students, into this, into the overall structure. The relationships that are being established, and taking a look at the data and adapting those programs, and not only impacting the students, from a academic perspective, but how, this method is truly advancing students from a social and emotional perspective as well, which they're also taking a look at from a metrics standpoint. So I just wanted to recognize Heritage and certainly what they're doing. It's again a reflection of us as a district, how we continue to think forwardly and integrate programs that adapt to the needs of all of our students. Because quite frankly, that's our mantra. Every student, every day. Just wanted to make sure that I recognize them this evening.
Thank you. Mrs. Sejar Martinez?
I have two. One came from a parent. She chose to stay anonymous, and this is specifically related to Meet the Teacher Night at Foothills Elementary School. She stated that she observed a newer teacher, Mrs. Barnaby, who actively saw the line of parents outside and greeted them outside. She went to the parents, and she was amazed of the effort, and she didn't wait for the parents to come to her. She went to the parents, and she wanted to highlight that and did not want any recognition other than that this teacher was awesome. And so I definitely want to say that an awesome job at Foothills. The other thing is at the Lions Club, a member, Mr. Rudy Davis, it was brought to my attention, who stopped by Sundance, and I believe Ira Murphy, out of his free will, donated pencils. Pencils are a rare commodity in our classrooms, and he does not know that he's getting this recognition, but another member of our community, the Lions Club, and a great partnership that we have, has donated his time and some resources to these schools. And so I wanted to say thank you to our community members for showing that ongoing effort. So thank you.
Mrs. Connect?
Thank you. I spent last weekend at the National School Boards Association's Pacific Region, well, actually, it was the leadership conference, but I'm the chairman of the Pacific Region, and we had the opportunity, I facilitated a president's panel where the 8 presidents from the 8 states that are here on the West Coast have an opportunity to share the highlights from their states, some of their best practices, some of the things that they're celebrating, and some of the challenges that they have. So I thought I would bring back to my board the experience. I wanted you to know that Arizona is considered a leader in many areas. One not so great area is in the privatization efforts that are affecting our public schools here. We have an opportunity to share our story and hopefully be a word of warning so that other states can see what's happening here and maybe ward off some of the attacks on their public school systems. But on a positive note, Arizona is also very well recognized as a leader in our efforts to inform and educate our school boards on the area of equity. And so we are really held up as a model there, and it's wonderful to see deeper conversations about all kinds of equity, not just in the Pacific region, but really spreading across the United States.
Thank you. Mrs. Doan?
I don't have anything tonight. Thank you.
I don't either. All right. Actually, I just wanted to take a moment right now to say that we're going to get into the kind of the not so fun part of the board meetings. So, so you're welcome to leave if you'd like to. This is a good time. We won't take offense to it.
Thank you.
For coming. Oh, my. Well, they have homework.
I know, it's, getting late. I'm just giving them a moment to. Okay, what we have left is all the hardcore people. All right. Next item is public comment. Do we have any tonight? I take it not? Okay. Okay, following item is consideration of approval of the consent agenda. Would any member like to pull anything from the consent agenda tonight?
Mrs. Beverly Pingerelli, may I pull number 11, please?
Okay. Diane, do you have number 11? Anybody else? No. Okay, then I would like a motion and a second to approve. Do you need a moment, Diane?
The developer.
It's full, okay. Then I would need to have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda minus item number 11.
I will move that we approve the consent agenda with the exception of item 11.
I second that.
All right. Members, please cast your vote.
Oh, there it is.
All right, passes. Then let's go to Mrs. Sejar Martinez on item number 11.
Well, thank you again for the opportunity to discuss this. I know this has been a sensitive topic and our developer assistance agreement. I had some time to research this information and I brought this to the board, and I'm still not comfortable approving and agreeing to these terms because we're settling. I did the calculation. The average home in that area will go from anywhere from 180,000 to 230. If we calculate the low end and the $1,000, it's less than 1%. So it's 0.5% of what we will be receiving. And in the agreement that if we go forward with something like this now and in the future, it's based on selling of the homes and looking at that area, and in the agreement, it's not a guarantee that $172,000 will be received, so it's difficult to plan for. In the agreement as well for the district, it doesn't identify if that money's gonna go into that area. If we look at those homes, they feed into Ira Murphy. It's a low-income school, and so my concern is that the money that is going to be generated, the very little that it is, it's not allocated to Ira Murphy. Currently, there are 463 students based on 2016. The problem I had last time was articulating, well, what's the other option? Because we can't just say no to money. Well, if and when the money comes in, that's one of the issues. But looking at an innovative partnership between the city of Peoria, the developer, and PUSD with an innovative partnership, such as creating a facility that services the whole community. So if these developers are truly about serving the community, they can create or donate a larger amount of sum that creates a playground so that the whole community can use. The city of Peoria can help generate some funds to create facilities that they can use them in the evening. We can use the facilities during the day for academics. And the whole community, including the developers for the sale of their home, can benefit. So I understand that this is a sensitive topic, and we've voted no, or we voted yes in the past, but I want to continue to bring this up because it is very important that our developers are getting a lot for a little, and that's the Peoria Unified name. That's it.
All right, then I would need to have a motion and a second. Actually, is there other discussion? Mrs. Connect or other board members?
I don't disagree that the developer, any developer that puts a development in the Peoria Unified School District is getting an amazing selling point. It's very attractive. But my understanding is that this is a pretty standard deal. And I don't really know what, and I agree too that I like shared amenities, shared usage and shared expenses. But from my experience, and maybe Mr. Hicks can talk about this or Dr. Stifler can talk about this, this is pretty standard countywide, maybe even statewide. And what leeway do we have?
Governing board is not, President Pingarelli, members of the board, the governing board is not required to accept the money. The developer is not required to do
Understood.
this. This is they don't have to do this. We do seek partnerships, and we, for instance, where we share park facilities and other things with the city. So we do look at those sorts of things like this. This has been our standard practice. Peoria has benefited for this for a very long time. As I would repeat what I've said before, I'm very grateful for this, and I would hazard against sending any message other than thank you.
Well, I'm very grateful for it as well. But is this amount is pretty standard from development to development? That's my.
It is very standard from development to development, although in some larger developments, in lieu of $1,000 per house, we'll get 15, 20, 25 acres for a school.
Okay. Yeah, this is standard to me. Of course, I'm grateful as well. I'll move to approve it.
Mr. Sandoval, do you have any comments?
Yeah, so just so I'm clear, it's this discussion is the outcome in and around not approving the developer agreement at this point? Is that kind of what?
Well, there hasn't been a motion yet. We're just having discussion. I brought forward because it is standard practice, but we are agreeing to the status quo because we're letting them take advantage that they have the upper hand. Because back in 2011, the impact fees were removed by a specific senator. However, with that being said, our best interest is our students, and this deal is not good for our kids.
So I guess, so clarifying, and thank you for that, I'll make the same comment I did last time. I don't disagree that we have great, our unique business value is great without question. And, we've got a lot of levers as a district, and there's no doubt, I'm always a proponent of diversifying our revenue channels, innovation, et cetera. However, that said, I think, for me, we don't always want to kind of follow the standard just because it is the standard. I mean, if there's ways to innovate or maximize on this particular opportunity, let's look at that. But in short order, my recommendation is certainly that, we approve I'm going to call it the developer agreement, and, continue to have dialogue with them in the city and, see where there are opportunities that we might be able to maximize on and truly make it a collaborative effort.
Certainly, and a vote tonight does not end conversations with this developer or any developer moving forward.
I would like to see our district administration continue that conversation with a proposed action plan of other opportunities with the partnerships with the developer and the city, and be informed with that information if possible in the future. Because I believe you had mentioned that you meet on a quarterly basis.
Yes, ma'am. We meet on a regular basis. Various different staff members, we do. There are no current plans to change the developer agreements because we don't want, my view, as I've said, not to endanger that others have lost them by pushing on this. And that we look at that on a, we're grateful for the, developer assistance agreement, but we're also we're grateful to be a part of the process as our city, especially the city of Peoria, looks to works with people to develop, to be included as part of that process.
I do have one question because it's stating HV and Canal LC out of Delaware. Does that mean that they practice out of Delaware and they don't have a facility here in Arizona that this entity?
It's not uncommon. I apologize, I do
No.
not know. I can't call it. It is not uncommon for there to be investors from elsewhere,
Okay, and that's.
developments in our area.
And I apologize for throwing you off guard, because I did the research and I couldn't make that connection. Based on favorable tax laws, Delaware tends to be a place where these entities have their companies. And so to me, that's saying that they're not vested in the community that they're gonna build a home in.
As a general rule, this is a very wide swath. It costs millions and millions of dollars, depends on the size of the development. Few developers have that cash of themselves, and so they solicit investors to help them do that. That is a standard way to move forward. That's a pretty tricky thing to say out loud here, since we have so many different developments and they all have different flavors to them. But it is not uncommon to have out-of-state investments in developments.
Thank you.
Mrs. Doan, do you have any comments?
No?
I did make a motion.
Was there a second?
No, there hasn't been.
I'll second.
All right. Members, please cast your vote. Would it be easier to do a voice vote? We can do that.
But now they have to vote on number 11.
We have to vote on 11 now. We can do a voice
You need me
vote.
to make the motion again?
Would you please?
I move that the board approve the developer assistance agreement submitted by Wayne N. Howard on behalf of HVN Canal LLC, blah, 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 and allow the president of the governing board to execute the agreement on behalf of the governing board, as stated on the agenda.
I'll second that. All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed?
Nay.
Okay, we have 4 to 1. All right, next item is future plans for the Challenger Space Center. Mr. Savoy?
This is one of those that we get asked about in the grocery store.
Well, good evening, President Pangarelli, members of the board, Dr. Darwin Stifler. Hopefully we can answer some of those questions for you tonight.
as you're approached by a number of people in the grocery store. We're happy to be here this evening to talk about the Challenger Center, and we can because at our last board meeting, our governing board approved that we accept the Challenger Center, and so that put the wheels in motion. What we'd like to do tonight is start out with a little bit of history, very briefly for you. And I really want to go back, believe it or not, to 1962, but I promise you I'm not going through every year from 1962. But very quickly, September 12th, 1962, John F. Kennedy spoke at Rice University, and he very quickly said, we choose to go to the moon in this decade. And not because it's easy, but because it's hard. And what was amazing about that statement is he challenged this entire country to mobilize and motivate our youth, our scientists, our engineers, our thinkers, our creators to meet that goal. And on July 20th, 1969, we put a man on the moon, Neil Armstrong. It's amazing. And when you think about the program, the NASA program, Mercury, Gemini, the Apollo series, the original 7 astronauts, those gentlemen who were willing to risk their lives and go into orbit around this planet, and eventually we got to a place where we were sending orbiters into space and coming back to Earth and landing on a runway. Amazing scientific feats. And that happened because what was happening in classrooms across America. We were inspiring people to learn, to challenge themselves, to think, to be innovative. People went on to careers in science, became scientists and engineers, and they made a difference. And it was really remarkable. I will share with you that as a science teacher myself at Sundance Elementary School in 1986, my class was sitting in the classroom on that January day, where for the first time a civilian was going into space. And when NASA had to choose that person, they chose a teacher. And her name was Kristen McAuliffe. In fact, she was from New Hampshire. And the whole class, we were all sitting around, we had the TV on. It was much different than July 20th, 1969, the black and white TV flickering, and all us kids were sitting in there trying to watch it, those first steps. Now it was color, it was in Florida, and tragedy struck. And we didn't know what happened. I remember being there with all of my 8th grade students, and after a few moments of trying to figure out what really just happened, we turned the TV off, and we just sat and we talked. But what's amazing about that event is it didn't end there. The folks in NASA and the science community, citizens across this America decided that they were going to make an effort in education. And they were going to build Challenger Learning Centers across America, places where students would be exposed to the very science that created the Mercury and the Gemini and the Apollo series, the Challenger space flights. And Peoria Unified School District was fortunate enough to host and be a site for that great endeavor. We're at a place now where this building is there and it's ours. And so we're here to talk to the board tonight that we believe we have the very program that can continue that legacy of Krista McAuliffe and that legacy of being an innovative workspace for kids to think outside the box, to be challenged every day. And it would be our recommendation to the board and our community across the district that our MET program, our Medical Engineering and Technology program that's currently located at Old Main, have an opportunity to occupy that space and to flourish and blossom in that space. The interesting thing about making that recommendation is our Flex Academy that's currently home also with them, they coexist on the same campus, is growing and expanding. And students are beginning incredible opportunities there as well. This option would allow both programs, if you, so to speak, to fly. They would both have that opportunity to expand. So we're excited about that opportunity. I wanted to share that with you. Mrs. Airy would get into more of the finer detail points. I wanted to share with you what I believe is the reason that the Challenger Center is there and how can we continue that legacy of Krista McAuliffe. I touch the future, I teach. Ms. Airy?
May I say something, Mrs. Pingarelli, before? Sure. To Mr. Savoy. So you inspired me to remember something I saw recently. I recently had the opportunity to hear astronaut Scott Kelly talk about his mission in space, in the space station, which almost lasted an entire year. And he's recently written a book and whatever, but the theme of his speech that I saw is that everything important is really, really hard.
Good evening once again, President Pingarelli, members of the board, Dr. Stifler, and it's true that everything that is important is hard, because if it was easy, everyone would do it. Isn't that right?
That is exactly right.
But we think certainly that proposing to you doing the hard work of moving one of our certainly exceptional programs into this building would be a step in the right direction, not only for those students and staff, but also for another program. So we're, in essence, really benefiting both the Met Professional Academy as well as the Peoria Flex Academy. And I want to share with you that there were a number of programs that were considered once we realized the opportunity that presented itself, but there were a couple of key reasons that the MET program in particular was selected. As you all know and are very aware, but I'll share just a little bit for our community, was mentioned just a little bit in a previous board meeting, but the Challenger Center, that building, wasn't necessarily designed to be a traditional school. What it is designed for, and very appropriately so, for a program. So it doesn't have a lot of the things that a traditional school would have, and Dr. Stifler shared this at our last meeting, things like a cafeteria space or a playground, some of those things that many families would come to expect from a traditional school. We all know, and it has been talked about very publicly, that another program in that area, the Peoria Traditional School, is certainly reaching a point where it might be in need of its own space. The Challenger Space Center is certainly not very traditional space. However, it is really, truly a wonderful fit for the Met Professional Academy. If you've ever been in the building, one of the hallmark features of it as you walk in is a giant rotunda in the center that really has this wonderful mural that goes throughout it. It's a wonderful, flexible space that certainly could be utilized not just by the Met students. They do a lot of things with, I believe it's TED Talk Tuesdays, and a lot of things where they're involving the business community to come in. They're doing pitches to the business community or to potential partners. So it's got some flexible space there. It's also a great space to invite our community in. So it will be a wonderful space for things like hosting parents for events and hosting the community. So we would look forward to utilizing that in a number of different ways, not just for student learning, but also as a great space for our community. Speaking of some of the teaching and learning that would go in there, once we did kind of get this program in mind, we wanted to be sure to reach out directly to our MET teachers and to our advisory council. We have a robust advisory council of business leaders that have helped to support the MET and to kind of get their feedback and insight to see if this was something that they thought would even be possible. Really pleased to say that they were beyond thrilled with the opportunity and the thought of potentially being able to call this place home, to give the Met Professional Academy its own brand in a prominent location where its signage alone could be displayed. And two of those teachers are here with us this evening, so I'd like to take a quick moment just to introduce them to you. Mr. Daryl Kidd, that oversees our engineering program at the Met, as well as Mr. Justin Davis, who is here with us and oversees the technology program. So we're pleased to have them here. They certainly shared that insight, and that's really critical because the Met Professional Academy is really unlike any other program that we have in this district or anything across the state. It's very unique and very special in a lot of ways, and we want to make sure we'd be setting up a space that would really meet the teachers' needs so that they could make sure that they were delivering the type of instruction and learning that they need to do to be true to the mission and vision of that program as it was designed. So did want to be able to share that with you. We know there would certainly be a lot of work ahead of us. Among the first steps in the process, and certainly this is a 30,000-foot view, if you will, we are actively working to select a director for the Met Professional Academy. We are hopeful to bring you an update on that, potentially a candidate for your review and approval in September. As you know, we don't officially take ownership of that space until the beginning of October, so that's when the real work can begin as far as doing a lot of those assessments, looking at the technology and the needs that we would have there. The nice thing about the Met is the essence of the program is already in place where it is, so it would just be, kind of getting a lot of those items moved and transferred over there. Certainly a lot of work, but they have much of what they need already to operate versus going into the space and having to purchase a whole lot of things to launch a new program of any kind. So that was another reason that this was especially attractive. The hope would be that we wouldn't interrupt any learning or instruction for the current students that are part of the program right now, but instead that we would look to open the facility again for student use at the beginning of next fall. That would allow us to kind of go through those assessments through the rest of this school year and make the plans that we need to have in place in order to make that move happen, keep everything status quo for the current students in there so we don't disrupt anything for them, and open for learning in the fall. That would be the goal that we have. Another key piece, and it can't be stated enough, is involving the teachers in the program and involving this Business Advisory Council. Their advice will be critical, their support will be critical, and so we hope to walk with them really right in step along the way as we look forward to that. So again, the 30,000-foot view for you all. I want to give you an opportunity to react to that and give us any comments or feedback. Mr. Savoy and I certainly can stand for any questions that you may have, but we do recommend moving forward with plans, more detailed plans, to be able to bring this to fruition. So
Thank you
President
very
Pingerelli.
much. I'll start with Mrs. Doan.
Okay, I'm a little, how full is the Old Main? Are we busting out at the seams over there?
President Pangarelli, Mrs. Doan, the room utilization is busted at the seams. Our numbers on the Flex Academy continue to grow. What typically happens with the Flex Academy is once the year gets on the path, more students are added who need the assistance and support recovery. And so what happens is they need more room space. The Met Academy is very, very full in 2 of our strands. We're working to continue to recruit students for our 3rd strand. Their room utilization is not just one room. They have a room where they have instruction, but then they have additional space that they use, what they call maker space, flex space. I call it building space, where they're creating and building the products that they're designing. So each program really needs more than just one classroom, and that's where the pressure is coming at Old Main.
And how, do we have a way that we measure how well this helps our students after they graduate?
The Met, President Pangarelli, Mrs. Doan, I would say we do. I would say our program is in our infancy. If you think about it, I think our rollout was last year. So we have really, I believe, our first graduating class. I don't know their track where they're at right now this early in their studies after high school, but what I will tell you is I did attend the graduation type ceremony that they had, and I was very impressed with the students who spoke at that recognition. And what I mean by that is very anecdotal, but my impression was these students are going to be successful. I mean, I felt these were pretty bright students in their presentation and what they were talking about that they had created and what their plans were for the future.
Do you see any need for like preparatory work as far back as perhaps 7th and 8th grade to enable students to be better prepared for intensive work like they must, are they doing? Would you call it intensive there?
President Pangarelli, Mrs. Doan, absolutely. We have a really robust technology life career program in our junior high where that initiation begins. But certainly these students, I talked with Mr. Kidd a few times. I mean, I've been in his classroom recently this year. What I find is they think very creatively, very innovatively. So I do think these are students who are self-motivated, take a lot of self-initiative. They dream about things. They talk about it out loud. They plan it. They have a whole process that they go through on each of their products, the design process. So these are specialized students who seek out the program, and I agree with you. Much like gifted education, identifying early who those students are and encouraging them to follow this path. And what we want to do is be able to provide an opportunity for all of our students, whatever their niche might be.
And when you say that, okay, I know sometimes you can come in at the end and learn how to do things without a very good grounding, sometimes in basics, and then you find yourself over your head later on. Would you say that we have the grounding covered in the science? That our students are like just excellent with all the basics that they need in the science and math areas?
President Pangarelli, Mrs. Doan, I think it's like that with all of our subjects, right? It's the commitment, the effort that the student puts in. It's the support from home to encourage their students, that education, what it has to offer. I think those are two fundamental pieces. And then obviously the third part of that triangle is the teacher that we have in the classroom, the teacher that inspires the student, that science, turns these particular students on, and other students, their interests may be with culinary and cooking or working in the automotive field. So I think what Peoria School District has always stood on as a firm foundation is finding ways to have opportunity for all students. Could we do more in science? Absolutely. What I mean by that is, do we have all the resources available? Do we have the tools and the equipment that we need at the younger grades?
Right.
So that we develop that love
Right.
early, so then when they get to junior high, they explore a little bit more. They get to high school, they have an opportunity. And then we talk about this Med Academy. Well, what do you mean, the Med Academy? What I was really, I don't want to use the word surprised, but I was encouraged by is we had an open house right before the school year started. In fact, I think it was on Friday before the school year started. I was encouraged by the number of people who came to the Med Academy that day, moms, dads, and a couple high school kids with them. Usually it was like their son, and then he brought a couple buddies with him. We actually signed up, I think, 4 or 5 students that day. But what I heard from a lot of the parents was, I didn't know a lot about this. This is really unique. Now, you had teachers like Mr. Kidd and Mr. Davis and Ms. Kasney there, and, their enthusiasm and what we were able to show them, really looked as like something that was possible for their child. Because you have to be a student who obviously has a real love and an excitement to explore this avenue of learning. Because it's not easy. It's hard.
Right.
And it takes hard thinking.
And do we have, on the hook, if you will, some people that are going to be there? Do we have the funds for extra teachers? I know some of these are hard to fill categories and stuff. So are we going to be able to handle that pressure, that need?
Mrs. Pangarelli, Mrs. Doan, certainly we're able to handle it now. It's a small core staff. We have 3 teachers on staff. It's a program that is supplemented along with their typical high school education. Students choose either to attend the morning program or the afternoon program, where it's intensified in the project that they're working on, in the content strand that they've selected. And so we are able to accommodate that, and there is room for it to grow without adding additional staff at this point.
Okay. And I know that I missed a little bit on this conversation, having missed the last board meeting, but how many other options were considered for the use of this space, or did this one just like leap out at us?
Mr. President Pangarelli, Mrs. Doan, I do recall a couple of conversations that were very robust, where we were all challenged first to say, what do you think might go there? And people were able to espouse a number of different options and thoughts and ideas. And then that morphed into a little bit different conversation. And so that happened on a couple of occasions. And really, I think what really happened when we got to this point was really the wanting to help the Peoria Flex Academy grow and be successful. It's a great program that helps a lot of students. When you look at a grad rate of 95%, plus or minus 1 or 2, that happens because not only do you have something like the Met that's reaching students who, don't go to sleep at night because they're so excited about their education, but it also helps students who may have had challenges with work or with family, whatever it might be. But the Flex Academy affords a good number of students an opportunity to recover their credits and be successful, get the high school diploma, walk out the door with a diploma from the Peoria Unified School District. And we all know when there's a person who's 17 or 18 years old, you talk to them when they're 23 or 24, they're a different person, right? They've grown up, they've matured, excuse me, they've made better decisions at that point, whatever it might be. But because they have that diploma, they have the right foundation to open a lot of doors. And so as we looked at it, we made a comprehensive decision to bring to you for conversation that this allows two things to really grow that serve students along a whole continuum, whether they be someone who needs a little extra opportunity and a student who's thinking 5 years ahead of something that isn't even happening right now, and they're already kind of creating an idea in their mind, because that's what will happen at the Met. So this option allows us to let the Met grow, and it allows us to let the Flex Academy grow. And it serves two important populations in our district. So that's really why we got to that point, plus the design of the facility at the Challenger Center, which the board, I'm certain when we take ownership, will have a chance to visit. I had been there many times as a teacher. I also had an opportunity to walk the space this week. When you see the space, you really begin to realize what you have. Is you have flexible rooms, walls move. You have rooms that are encased in glass. We see an opportunity for a lot of the work that Daryl does is kind of neat. The big rotunda at the bottom can do a lot for the community, but also we see kids down there in collaboration centers. It's 4 levels. 3 levels are inside. A 4th level is an observation deck. The bottom level is the huge rotunda, classroom space, smaller. The middle level, a lot of intricate spaces there that can be used in classroom, and then the top level has some very large rooms. And it's space that can be flexed and moved about, and it really serves the mission of what the Met Academy is working on. So it's a great question, and it's kind of how we morphed in that way. We can serve children on all lines of the continuum in our district, and it's a space that really, it jumps out at you, wow, this is going to be really great for a medical engineering technology academy. So, and that's kind of how we landed there. But it's a great question. And, we struggle with that. What's the best way to do this?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Sandoval?
Thank you, sir. And sorry, I had to swallow my
I'm
water.
sorry. She went somewhere else.
So, I'm always been of the belief of, success without fulfillment is failure. And as a district, we continue to, our charge is always ensuring the success of all of our students. Well, and making sure that we're nurturing and certainly fulfilling on their creativity, in inspiring environments that are innovative and certainly supportive. So anytime that we can integrate and enhance on programs, whether it's curriculum or in this case, structurally, to, continue to uphold that promise, quite frankly, to all of our students, is a good thing. That said, it sounds like this program certainly is in growth mode, and one that's certainly will allow us to accommodate, more students given the transition to the now called Challenger Center. Is that the case? We'd be able to accommodate more students because we're in a bigger.
Yes.
Okay. So when we were at the Denver conference, there was one of the breakout sessions was on these collaborative environments and workspaces, and how the integration of these types of programs certainly create students that are confident, when they certainly get into the workforce. Certainly get them, into environments, where collaboration is, as we all know, and relationship building is critical to be successful in the workforce today. What I saw at that conference, and as these students were up there presenting, and were kids who were just that, confident in their future, certainly adaptable, as I stated earlier. So for me, this type of program is one that we want to continue to grow. And as we innovate and think forwardly of other programs that we, certainly include into or integrate into the district as a whole, that's always been our culture as a district, is forward thinking. So I appreciate, certainly the thought, the integration of all the staff to really help us, define, what the best use of this facility would be with our students in mind, 100%. So thank you for that.
Thank you. Mrs. Connect?
So when we first started talking, about Challenger years ago, but on this round, my first thought was that it would be a good fit for the Met. And then there were other conversations going on, Mrs. Doan, about maybe it should be a professional development space for our teachers, and maybe it should be we put the traditional school there. But as our administrators mentioned, it's not a traditional space and would not have been a good fit for that program or even a regular elementary school. So I think it is a good fit, and I'll keep my comments brief. I think the Met Academy still has has unmet potential, but it has the opportunity to be really a jewel in our crown. And then they're again offering incredible choices to the students in our community and the families. I like the professionalism component, so that we're not just giving kids content area, but actually preparing them to go out and pursue careers in these fields. I know that we've all been in that environment and seen the students dressed in professional clothes, not typical high school clothes, because they're asked to engage with each other and with their teachers in ways that reflect the way they will need to in a professional environment. So again, incredible opportunity there, and I think this is a fresh start for the program. I look forward to meeting the future director, and I know that person will be dynamic and skilled, and here we go. It's a fresh start for Challenger, and let's make it great.
Mrs. Ceja Martinez?
Okay, I took notes so that they were concise. I echo everything, and the questions are all asked. We've been through this process. We asked a lot of questions. You answered them. I want to highlight, I had the privilege of attending the Met celebration as well, and I brought a guest, Maricopa Governing Board, G. McGrath, and she will be ecstatic to hear that we're enlarging our Met program opportunity for our kids, because she thought great things about going through that celebration as well. So I look forward to sharing that information with her. Danielle, I appreciate you highlighting the timeline. I know that was a question I received from the public, is why delay that process? And for you to explain that it's not to disrupt our students, I appreciate you elaborating on that. In regards to the leadership team in the Met program, Mrs. Ann Babina is part of that. And so I know you're in good hands if she's part of that team. And the possibilities are endless. When we think as a governing board, we know that our goal is to attract and retain teachers. What better way to say we have a facility that is top-notch, innovative, and nothing else that nobody and our peers can provide, and our district. And so I believe this will be a good selling point to get our engineers and our science teachers to that point. So high five to you. And the only thing that I would like you guys to think about going forward is student access. Because we are changing the location, and I think about the MET program being in our south side at Peoria High School, and I think about those demographics attending MET because those parents, it's convenient, it's accessible. If we change that location to the north side, I want to make sure we ensure that those students, the students in the south and the students that are in the way north, still have access. So with that being said, thank you, and I, as well as all of my other board members, I'm excited for the possibilities.
President Pingarelli, Mrs. Ceja Martinez, I would like to just address that briefly because it was in my notes and I failed to mention that because it's a really important point and one that we had discussion with the teachers about when we met with them because they wanted to be sure that there was enough access for all students to be able to attend. So it's on the list as a problem we know we need to solve, and we're confident that we can find a solution for that to make sure we're providing access for all students. So I appreciate you bringing that up.
Excellent, and I know going through that leadership 9-week class, the city of Peoria may be another opportunity to highlight that partnership because they do have some resources for transportation. So thank you so much.
Thank you. And I just had a couple questions. The MET program now, do you know what the capacity is, and then what the capacity will be at the Challenger Center? And I guess how much can we grow?
President Pangarelli?
Because I'm really excited about this program. I really want to see it grow.
Well, right now, we have 3 teachers on staff. They each run 2 sessions, and we've been capping the class sizes, I believe about 24 is what we want to cap at. About accurate? How high? Take whatever you can get?
Wow.
Stand corrected. Thank you, Mr. Kidd. Mr. Kidd's our teacher over there. So 24 to 35, 35. So the way it would grow is with more students, and then that goes to the question that Mrs. Doan asked, then we would look at our staffing ratios and make the appropriate adjustments to support that program. So what would happen, in essence, is those students would be coming from our high school campuses, in most instances perhaps, so that would work itself out as far as a reduced number of sections at a particular high school perhaps, and that's where that FTE would come from to support the MET. Now, if we attract students from outside the district, then we would just hire a teacher and be able to accommodate that as well. So there is room to grow, and that's really the essence to answer your question.
Okay, yeah, and I like having the Flex Academy to be able to grow also. I was at their graduation. It was just a phenomenal graduation. So it's not until October 1st that we get possession of the property. So at that point, then we will go through and evaluate the cost of repairs and everything at that point.
President Pangarelli, that's correct. I will look at Mr. Hicks, but yes, we're planning on taking that official ownership on October 1.
Okay.
Madam President, members of the board, yes and no. We do take possession October 1st. We're working on the list right now
Okay.
because, as we've discussed, we want to make sure that there's no major costs by taking it. And so this week, our maintenance team and a few of us all had site investigations, and so they've been taking notes. I have not received a comprehensive report back from that. There's a lot of minor things, but in general, the building is in pretty good shape. It's, for being almost 20 years old, it's in really good shape. But we have to wait until we get that final list. Then we'll put a plan together about how to start making the improvements. But we'll also need some input on if we're making any changes and modifications for an educational learning space, what does that look like? And we'll have to get that information and do that at that time.
Okay, thank you very much. And then when we're able to expand, are we going to have just existing programs, or are we going to be able to expand any type of new programs?
Well, President Pangarelli, members of the board, Dr. Stifler,
There's room to do
there's
that.
always room to do different things. We have those conversations all the time. So we want to see how that goes. But we have ideas.
Okay, thank you. I'm very excited about it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, next agenda item is item 16, discussion and possible action regarding the drafting of the superintendent's performance goals and performance pay for the 2017-2018 school year. Dr. Stifler, would you like to lead us?
Yes, ma'am. On Tuesday, you worked on these. We took account of the conversation, and on the screen, I think we have it there. So you, again, for anybody who wasn't there, it reflects what the law says. So there's in 4 areas. We need to grow academically, our parents need to be happy, and our teachers need to be happy. That's in the law. And then what other goals to add. And so here's the goals that were proposed in the beginning, and then some were added. So there you can see the request to, we have a good survey, but would like to see a higher response rate. You can see the chevron that says we're going to do that. The college and career measurements, I believe that one was an add. There was, all 3 of the ones that were discussed were added. So I guess what I would say is I would recommend that the governing board approve the work that they've done and put this into place.
Okay. I know we had a very long discussion on this past Tuesday morning, so I know we're all very in tune of the items on the list, but are there any comments or discussion? Mrs. Connect?
I would just say that the specifics that we talked about are there, and that in general, this reflects the conversations that we've had as a board since January when we had our retreat. And I think it's an accurate description of the goals that we hold for Dr. Stifler, and I support it.
I agree. Any other comments?
Is this an action item?
Yes, it is.
I'll move to approve it.
All right, members, please cast your vote.
A lot of work, Dr. Stifler.
We're not going to get bored.
And thank you very much. It was a lot of work going into the layout of all the different areas, so I appreciate all the time that everybody spent to put this together.
Thank you.
All right, next item. Item 17, report and discussion on local, state, and federal legislative issues and activities. Dr. Stifler?
President Pingarelli, members of the board, very quickly tonight. The biggest thing that, from a school administrator point of view, is what's going to happen on A through F, and that was delayed one more time. And so let me read to you my report here that says, last Friday, when the State Board of Education was finally able to review all the data for A through F, they were disappointed in the lack of variability and differentiation. What that means is,
In many good schools?
it means that you could pretty much tell which schools are going to get A through F by their zip code. So the final model design had not been fully vetted until last Friday. They looked at that. There were new committee members, and so they said, let's go back to the technical committee and let's look at this one more time. I do not mean this to be editorial. I'm trying to just report the facts. This is what happened. And so the technical committee was asked to work with ADE this week. That's been happening. Actually, our own Ms. Davy is in the other room right there listening to what I'm saying while she's working for the ADE, trying to compute the scores different ways to see what the cut scores should be. Wendy, you could give a shout out from the other room there. There she is. The groups have been working, at any rate. They're supposed to come back together on Monday and to approve that, and preliminary labels, the schedule hasn't been altered. They're still scheduled to be released sometime next week. That's not in the hands of the schools, that's in the hands of the State Board of Education, who are bound by the law that the legislature's put into place. So,
Dr. Stifler,
yes, ma'am.
has anybody called the fact to the attention of the state board that we've done just fine without our A through F scores, and we keep growing and doing right by kids day in and day out?
President Pingarelli, Mrs. Connect, I would tell you, yes, ma'am.
Okay.
I have done that. I know my peers have done that. I know principals have done that. I know that Ms. Diane Douglas has done that herself. And yet we are on this path going forward.
It's a lot of time and energy and resources.
What I believe would be more appropriate, actually what Ms. Douglas also says would be more appropriate, is a dashboard that has all the different criteria you could imagine about a school, so a parent could click and see what that is. and be able, well, I'm interested, does the school have a good band program? Does the school have rock and science scores? Does the school have a great sports program? Does the school have?
Rather
Be
than
able to
boil
pull
it all
that down,
into one
then be
letter.
able to try and use test scores to label all of the schools in the state in a fair way to do that, in a distribution that makes sense.
I'm glad we have a seat at the table.
We
Do we? I
Yeah.
mean, you're down there, not a seat at the table, but a voice in the room.
We do have voice in the room. We do that various different ways, and absolutely impartial from a technical point of view. We, Ms. Wendy Davy, our amazing Director of Research, is right there going, hey, we got to look at this. Hey, we got to look at this. This isn't right there. So she doesn't have the power to decide, but she has the power to work, not the power, the responsibility to work with just a very small select group, the Technical Advisory Committee, respected people from the field, I believe it's 4, that ADE has reached out to try and get the work done to, as somebody says, will this one work? They crunch the numbers and they go, nope. Well, will this one work? And they crunch the numbers and they go, oh, that one doesn't work. And that's what's happening.
Well, I love that dashboard idea. Of course, we have to keep looking at all those factors that impact the quality of education our kids are getting, but boiling it all down to one letter just isn't very logical.
I think that there is a misperception by some. The federal law, once upon a time, No Child Left Behind required an A, B, C, D, or F. The SL law, which replaced No Child Left Behind, would allow for a dashboard, and some states are actually going that route. But Arizona put a law into effect that said, no, we're going to use the A through F model, and has decided not to go a different route. So that's in statute. What else is going on across the state? The ESA challenge, the empowerment accounts are still on hold. The initial threshold of whether or not there was enough to move that to the ballot to overturn the legislature and the governor's decision to put those in place. The initial threshold was there just to say, should we put a stay on this? And so that counting process has just begun. The counting, the checking of all, are they all filled out right? Are those registered voters and all of that? That process is going to take a while. Former secretaries of state and present secretary of state I saw an article today about how fast can it possibly done. Depends on how fast. It literally said, how fast can you pull staples out of petitions and to do that. So that process is moving on. A through F, that's happening. I believe that's enough for tonight. And our legislature's not in session, so those would be the 2 main things that are out there legally that are happening. On the federal level, we still don't have an answer about Title I, Title II, Title III, Title IV, Title V funding, as Congress needs to make a decision about that.
Thank you very much. All right, next item. Item number 18, request for agenda items for future governing board meetings. Mrs. Connect, I'll start with you. Do you have anything?
Not tonight, no.
Okay, Mrs. Seja Martinez?
I just want to confirm, I know we talked about it, that we agreed as a governing board, first and second, to create a bond committee.
That's certainly true. We will make sure that that appears there.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Sandoval? I don't. Okay. Mrs. Doan? Okay, I don't either. All right, let's move on to item number 19.
No.
Budget, facilities, planning, and construction reports. These are all online for anybody who would like to go and take a look at them. Next item is report of upcoming meetings and events. And that one is also online. Ms. Aries, I heard that you had something to say this evening.
President Pingarelli, members of the board, Dr. Stifler, I did want to just draw your attention to one of the items that is included on the upcoming meetings and events. It's taking place on September 26th, I believe it is, and it is an event that we are hosting on behalf of ASBA, Arizona School Boards Association. It's a wonderful opportunity for us to host governing board members from all over the western portion here of our area, so we really look forward to that opportunity. We'll be featuring some of the arts education, wonderful arts education programming that we have at Liberty High School, as well as a wonderful CTE program, our culinary arts students who will be preparing and serving dinner that evening. So all of you are invited to be there, and we hope that you will plan to attend and join us that evening and join your fellow school board members from across the area.
Thank you very much. All right, next item. Item number 21, draft agenda for the September 14th, 2017 regular board meeting. I believe it's looking a little sparse now, but I'm sure it will be full by the time we get to that day. All right, next agenda item. Agenda item number 22, board member opportunity to readdress agenda items. Does anybody need to go back and talk about anything we've discussed this evening? Nope. Okay. Agenda item number 23. Consideration for adjournment. I need a motion and a second for us to go home.
I move to adjourn the meeting.
Second.
All right. Members, please cast your vote. And as usual, it does pass 5-0. Okay. Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you. Just that one time when Matt was retiring.